That's all
So
good.
I always make the drink regardless of whether y'all drink it or not. I swear I'm making a cookbook at the end of this.
I will try this. The drinks are good. The last one that we did, I ended up having 4 of these.
Yeah.
And I went home and I couldn't sleep because there was so much sugar. I'm not joking. I was like wired. I
Yeah.
couldn't go to bed till like 2 in the morning.
I am a...
But to answer your question in regards to the podcast, we are approaching 80 episodes at this point.
Really? That's
Yeah.
cool.
So
That is awesome.
yeah, just in general, like in this room, Chase is one of the spinoffs, Market on the Rocks, and it is my favorite podcast.
That's a really good name.
Well, I love the name, and we focus on the lighter side of real estate, and we booze on the podcast. And there's the theme, which this is obviously the Christmas theme. We've done fall, and the first one we did like a tiki theme.
Yeah, it's kind of a...
So
Wow,
it's a good time, and we kind of talk about the lighter side of real estate. So
You should go through an entire bottle of booze.
yes,
Minimum.
everybody knows what Chase and I do, but you're our special guest. So why don't you do a little introduction and tell us about yourself?
Sure. So I basically work in wholesale real estate. I've been doing that 4 years now. November, I think 17th was 4 years. And I did that fresh out of college. So that's my like first real adult job, you know?
So for those that don't know, can you please describe what wholesale real estate means?
So in the traditional sense, if you YouTube just like a wholesale real estate, you'll find somebody who contacts. It's kind of like a thing that folks might do if they're just trying to get cash quick in the real estate industry, right? They kind of want to get started in investing, and this is the best way to kind of build capital to do their own flips. So you might YouTube wholesale real estate.
And you'll find Pace Morby.
And you'll find Flip with Zach.
Yeah, you'll find a lot of stuff.
Fuck Pace Morby.
But kind of the premise is...
We roast him a lot on this
Really?
show, yes.
I just listened
He's
to another
coming for me.
podcast that was
We're
like...
getting him on.
it
He
was,
lives in Texas.
Yeah, I bet he does.
He does. He's up in Dallas.
Well, there's a ton of stuff. We've had several people leave our office to do Sub-2 stuff. And so they're just doing that full time now. So
Yeah,
that's the thing.
FBI is going to get y'all.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm
We
curious
had
to
people
see.
up in Ohio where the FBI was coming in, and nobody got in trouble, but they went through everything. And, you know, the transaction as far as the contracts, they've got to be really, really correctly
tidy.
written. And, yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. And I relate it to being a gun owner. You know, everyone's a good gun owner until they're not.
Yeah,
And when you're not a good gun owner, it's really bad.
it's bad. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to watch because it's the big thing right now. And so
Yeah.
it'll be very interesting.
Well,
to
why
watch
wouldn't it be? I
play
mean,
out.
you got a guy on the internet who's talking about how much money he's making with zero money down, with
Yeah.
zero this, zero that. I mean, it literally, it sounds too good to be true. And at the end of the day,
Delicious.
from my experience, most things
And
that
we're on
sound
camera,
too.
right? So people can see how tasty
We're going to
these
need
look.
a
Oh yeah.
towel for all
Wait,
this.
before we do this, can you please describe what is in this drink
Oh,
in
yes.
case anyone wants to make it?
Yeah, so I make all these recipes on this show myself. So this one, I'm calling it the Candy Cane Martini on the rocks. Of course.
Fancy.
So this is a Smirnoff Peppermint Twist. This is a Pinnacle Whipped Cream Vodka. And then we got a Light Baileys because, you know, during Christmas, you need one thing without calories.
Yeah.
Thing
And
will
this is
take
40%
hair off
less.
your chest.
Right. So take hair off your chest. Correct. Cheers.
On top of that,
whipped
we have a
cream is
Mocha
crazy.
Vodka Whipped Cream.
Oh, wow.
That
That
whipped cream is
tastes
really
like
good.
you know what it tastes like?
The Dentist.
A Girl Scout cookie. The remember the like
Thin Mint,
the
yeah.
Thin Mints. It tastes like a Thin Mint Girl Scout cookie.
I was gonna say, well, it's like
Mine tasted like a dentist.
it's like a car bomb without the Guinness.
There you go.
Wait, I'm going to hop up and grab the Lysol wipe for this.
You're good. You're
But
good.
y'all keep talking.
We'll wipe it down.
Oh. All right.
So, where were we?
So yeah,
Sub twos, all that kind of stuff.
wholesale.
Buying homes with other people's money.
Yeah.
Wholesale.
So traditional wholesale, you'll YouTube it. You'll see it's basically the wholesaler finds a seller, probably direct a seller that's willing to sell their house for a certain amount of money. Maybe they run comps and they realize, hey, this house is worth 500 fixed up. I could pick it up for 300, maybe sell it to an investor for 320. They put 50 into it, sell it for 500, something like that. And so traditional wholesale is just an individual. They go and they get that house under contract. They find someone else that'll buy that house for more. They basically assign that contract to that investor. That investor closes with all the same terms of the original contract. I do something similar, except it's on a larger scale. I basically work for a brokerage that does that. And so with that, it means everybody's licensed. It's a little more above board. It's very professional. We're working with a lot of agents. We're working with a lot of direct-to-seller, working with a lot of investors. And since it's a team, it's like if I have a house and Jimmy wants to sell it to his investor, he can do that. If Jimmy has a house and he wants to sell it to my investor, we can do that.
Okay.
And so in that way, it's a lot more deal flow than it would be if you're an individual. And I've just had a ton of contact with individual wholesalers in Austin, and very rarely will you find one of those actually pan out to be something. And I feel like a lot of that is just because they don't really have a team around them or the support or the expertise to kind of get through that transaction.
Is wholesaling, again, just for the audience and for content, I mean,
Yeah.
is wholesaling for not the job, but as far as if I'm thinking of selling my home, what are the benefits of me going with somebody who's a wholesaler versus connecting directly with a real estate agent?
No, absolutely. So a lot of the time we'll come in contact because agents will bring us stuff all the time. And if it's something that's too clean for us, or if it's something that, is
What do you mean by too clean?
He wants your meth lab.
I want something that's
You want something that's
something
distressed.
distressed, absolutely. Whether it's a distressed situation or a distressed home,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time, unless it's something that maybe an investor is just dumping because they need to exchange it or they need to buy something else, it's just not going to be a good fit for us. And so there's plenty of times where maybe a house is appraised at 360 and the realtor's trying to sell it at 320. They're like, hey, this is a good deal. And I agree, it is a good deal for somebody, but not for us. And so what we'll tell them is, you should list that house. That's not something for us. Maybe there is a rental investor that'll buy that. They won't be the ones that work with us. We buy them a little deeper than that. But there are people that, will certainly be interested in that. It just won't be us. I highly suggest you go ahead and list that, see what you can get on the open market.
So these are mainly homes that are going to be designed for people that are looking to sell, that need a ton of improvements on the property. They don't have the money to do it. Maybe they don't even want to deal with it.
Right.
And they find an investor that's going to invest money and turn it around.
Exactly, yeah. Majority bread and butter, single family, 322 flips.
Mhm.
We'll get plenty of rentals on occasion, but a lot of those are going to be situations, something where they're behind on the mortgage. We definitely sell like on occasion, maybe like 5 or less per year, new builds, like 19 to 22 builds, stuff that's nice and new, but it's going to be some kind of situation like they're behind on the mortgage or, bad tenants, all
Right.
kinds of different things like estates.
Yeah.
So it's going to be some kind of situation like that where you're going to be able to make that work.
I gotcha. Well, and I'm glad that you kind of broke that all down because, a lot of times I'll talk to people who are contacting me about financing and, I've even had people that are just flat out like, I'm buying a property wholesale. And I'm like, well, what are you trying to accomplish? And it seems to be almost like a buzzword
Yeah.
that like, if you're getting a property wholesale, like you're automatically getting a deal.
Yeah, not the case. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, well, wait a second. I don't think you know what you mean. And, the internet obviously makes my job a lot more difficult
Yeah.
because of things like that. But I think you did a great job of kind of explaining that because it's not as simple as like, if you get a house at wholesale, you're getting a deal.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's, we run formulas and that kind of thing, but there's so many, because we'll even buy from other wholesalers, like whether it's individual wholesalers or, larger groups, there are plenty. If you're in the investor scene, it's a pretty tight-knit scene. A lot of people kind of know each other. You start to recognize names. And within the wholesale community, there are plenty of names that you'll start to recognize, and you'll start to get emails without you even contacting somebody. And plenty of those are people who don't even live in Austin, have never walked the house, have never, maybe they can kind of do a price per square foot for their rehab, but, as far as like comps go, they're just kind of pulling stuff off PropStream rather than like licensed MLS, looking at stuff that's, right there on top of your pocket.
So both of you are licensed as real estate agents, and I guess I would love to hear from the both of you in regards to what's the difference between, as far as the transaction. I mean, this is Market on the Rocks, so we can make it fun. What's the difference when you're dealing with the transaction in comparison to an investor that's purchasing a property like through a wholesaler versus like a traditional seller?
Ooh, I think you're dealing with two different type of buyers because the people who are buying from Jordan specifically want to flip or they want to flip it to hold it. Whereas someone who's buying it on the market, more than likely, even if it needs to get fixed up, either they want it for the long term, or they, they actually want to live in it. I don't think anyone's buying any of the properties that you're selling to actually live in.
If they are, it's a secret because they may or may not be using hard money, and so that's not something we can really talk about. But
And
cash
so-
buyers definitely allowed to do that.
Yeah, so more than likely, you're dealing with people who have done multiple transactions, whereas I'm dealing with people who probably, if they're buying a fixer-upper, it's still probably among their first transactions, or they don't do it professionally.
To unpack that, what is that like? I mean, what is the investor client during the transaction like versus the traditional buyer? Like, what are the differences that immediately come to mind?
Well, so I'll put myself in that example. So, the main reason we had Jordan on the show today was I purchased the house that I just flipped from his company last December, and today we closed on it.
Congrats!
I was
Congrats,
complaining.
that's exciting.
I was complaining last episode that it's still on the market. Thank you, seller financing. We'll see how that goes. I was complaining about that the episode before, but yeah, I mean when I first saw that house, Jordan was like, "Oh well, there's a lot of competition on this, so you need to strike fast. You have 1 day to decide. Sorry, you actually have like 2 hours to decide." I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" And
That was the market.
and he's like, "Yeah, everyone decides that fast." I was like, "Really? How? Like they don't get to sleep on it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess whatever, we'll do it." I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
It was quite an experience. Came out in the positive in the end. So many things I'll do differently next time. Nothing was Jordan's fault. Mostly was my fault. And just kind of lack of supervision over how the process was going, really.
Well, that's big of you to take responsibility for some of the things that went wrong because, from my experience, most buyers are unwilling to do that.
I take responsibility for everyone else's stuff, so I just got used to it.
You're just used to it.
I'm like that landfill that you just dump your shit into.
I want to talk about that in a minute. But Jordan, so I guess what I was kind of trying to squeeze out of the two of you is like, are you dealing with wholesale because it just happened, or are you dealing more in wholesale because you like it?
I would say very much fell into it.
Okay.
It was, I wasn't even planning on going into real estate to begin with. I started looking for jobs in real estate in Austin, and I think Net Worth Realty, where I work, is probably the number 3 posting on whatever I was looking at, Handshake at the time,
Okay.
I think I applied with Lincoln Property Management because I was like, hey, maybe I can work with a property management company, kind of learn how that works, and that'd be good. But it was like number 3 on the list. I was like, let me click that, see what that's about. At the time, I didn't realize it, but like interviewing with a real estate company, it's more of you interviewing them rather than them interviewing you,
Sure.
And so you finish that interview and he's like, hey, you have a desk whenever you're ready. And I was like, what does that mean? Does that mean I have a job? And so it ended up being something where I was like, if I do this, I'm going to learn about investing in real estate full time, as a job. And it was a very slow start, but the more I've been there, it's picked up quite a bit. This year has been, very slow. I've probably done half of what I did last year, and I'm thinking,
Welcome to the club.
yeah, right. I've heard it a lot, and so I think everybody's kind of in the same boat. But nonetheless, there's still, success to be had even in a down market. And I think next year should be better, even if it is slightly on the rocks.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like how you.
Whether it's up or down, it's on the rocks.
So yeah, the story that Chase was talking a little bit about was, with the landfill. I had a fun-filled day today, so I just
Literally.
Yeah, I picked up a property very close to here that we're going to be turning into office space. It was an old assisted living facility, so we've been doing a lot of work on it ourselves, and I've got a big truck for truck stuff. It's not like my daily driver, and we loaded it completely. It's an 8-foot bed. We loaded it to the top with, drywall that we took out and all this stuff to gut this bathroom. And I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and up there I would always just, we would take it to like the landfill. But boy, I went to the Travis County landfill today.
It's bad.
It was impressive.
Oh,
There is a gigantic landfill that it's got to be like 15, 20 acres where they dug a hole into the ground. and you go and just throw trash in this hole.
Where is that?
It's over off of 183. Like, I came from here, so they take William Cannon until it goes through Easton Park and everything. It dead ends into 183. Make a left on 183, and then the first street on the right. I honestly don't remember it. I think it was like Farm to Market. Insert 3 numbers, and then it's right there on
And
the
that's
left.
the one for all of Austin.
All of Travis
All
County.
of Travis. That's crazy.
Yeah, and all of these bulldozers and everything like that. I had to buy a hard hat because you have to wear a hard
Really?
hat there. Yeah, it was pretty wild. And I took some photos, but they're not very good because they want you to move.
Yeah, quick.
So I was like taking them while I was driving away because, they're like, come on, get the fuck out of here. Because there's literally just tons and tons of dump trucks just lined up, just dumping trash in this giant hole. And it was cool.
That was pretty cool.
It was really cool. But from the real estate side of things, going back to, wholesaling and everything along those lines, yeah. So picked up this property and I'm back in it again, man. This is our third one down here. And I'm doing a lot of grunt work. And
Sounds like a cool project.
Is
though.
this your first time remodeling a commercial building?
Yes. Yes. But I mean, at the end of the day, I wouldn't even really call it necessarily commercial. It's only 2,800 square feet. It's not a big facility.
Oh, you made it sound like a hospital.
No,
You made it sound
no.
enormous.
All right, so
Hype
I'll
it
tell.
up.
So here's what I've gathered by like doing the rehab and like seeing some of the incident reports we came across. Like they weren't filled out; they were empty. But in the bathroom, they had all of the names labeled. So there were 3 girls that were living there, and I talked to the neighbors, and apparently, hypothetically, if you have a child that has like severe mental and physical handicap, you're going to take care of your child. And then eventually when you pass away, let's say you're like, I don't know, 80, your kid's like 35, 40. But that 40-year-old child in this state is not capable of taking care of his or herself. This place was for people like that. And there were 3 girls that were living there. And from what I heard through the grapevine, the company, and I won't name them, but they're a big company here in Texas in general. Like they run a bunch of facilities like this. It's all like state funded and everything like that. So big legit company, but they ended up piecing off a bunch of their houses, and some California investor bought them. And this was the one that he was like, I just wanted to dump it. And so we've been actively searching for like office space that we could, purchase, but it wasn't something that we were like chomping at the bit for. This kind of just happened. Kind of like what everybody says in real estate, right? It just happened. So how many times have you heard that?
Yeah, I mean, good
Right.
fit. That's cool though. It sounds like you probably got a good deal on it.
Yeah, that's why we did it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was I wouldn't say it was a no-brainer, but
Close
it checked
to
a lot of boxes.
Yeah.
From a cost standpoint, it was kind of a no-brainer,
Yeah.
to be quite honest. But it's a lot. The place is not in the best shape.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also not like condemned.
Was that MLS or was that just you found it?
Yeah, so my better half is also a real estate agent, and she was showing properties to some investors that were looking for multi-unit properties, and for whatever reason, this place was mistakenly listed as a multi-unit property, which it is not.
That's
And-
a good way to find deals. I will add too stuff that's mistakenly labeled.
Yeah, so she went to show this property, and the clients walked in, and they were like, "What the fuck? This is not anything we wanted." And she was like, "I'm so sorry. Like, it was listed as a 2-unit in the area that you're looking for. We'll go to the next house." She called me and she was like, "I think this might be a good fit for us." I was like, "All right, sweet." So I'm like totally desensitized to real estate because I've been doing this for over 20 years. And so
Yeah.
I've seen so many transactions. And although I'm not the one buying the house, I feel very,
You look like you're 30. So like if
thanks.
that.
Yeah,
So
I'm 40.
okay.
I got into this business as an after-school job as a telemarketer when I was 15 years old.
Really?
And I've really done.
I was gonna say you had to have started when you're 10. So
15.
yeah.
Yeah, 15, telemarketer for a mortgage company, Axis Financial. I don't even know if they're in business anymore. But
Well, I was working at Smoothie King at 15.
yeah,
Imagine if I was
Cinemark.
selling houses.
I was smiling and dialing, pounding phones,
Selling
man.
Popcorn.
Right? But yeah, so I went and looked at it, and I was like, run the comps. She showed me the comparables. I was like, go in at this. And there was a little bit of back and forth over just like a couple $1,000s, and they were like, "All right, fuck it, let's go." And I was like, "Okay."
Sweet. Yeah.
So now I'm broke.
And you have a
That'll change.
pretty good crew here in Austin that you put together, or just folks that
Crew as
far
in
as like rehab goes?
oh, the rehab stuff. So this is gonna be the third house that I've done. I've fairly handy, have a ton of tools. I'm doing a lot of the work ourselves
Okay,
because we've been
sweet.
a little slower. But I'm interviewing contractors, so I might have just made a big mistake, huh?
Yeah.
As if they'll watch this.
I have contractors that I've talked to. I actually met a guy the other day that I really, really liked that was referred to me by the guy who came out and did our trees. His name was Hunter Calloway Tree Service and Roofing. You should call that guy. Really salt of the earth motherfucker.
Sweet.
Came over and just went to work with his team and chopped down like 4 trees and got it done in like 6 hours. I have so much wood now for like fire, whatever, man. Just lined up along the back fence. But yeah, Hunter Calloway, good dude.
He'll give you wood.
Yeah, he'll give you wood. And yeah, for sure. And he referred me to a guy that came over that I liked, and he handed me his business card. And on his business card was it's Dobie Construction, and I look at it and it's a Doberman Pinscher.
Oh, fun.
And I go, "You have a Doberman Pinscher?" He goes, "Yeah, man, I love my dog." I go, "I have a Doberman Pinscher." He goes, "Get the fuck out of here." And when Doberman people meet Doberman people, it's like,
Big.
if this dude comes back to me with, as long as it's not like some over the top, like ridiculous cost, like he's in. Even if another company's like, "We'll do it for $1,000 less," I'm like, this guy's got a Doberman.
Yeah.
I just can't. I just can't. I'm on my 4th Doberman Pinscher.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, well, no, not currently, right? You just have had 4.
Yeah, I've
Okay,
had
yeah.
4. Unfortunately, they just don't live very long.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I lost one of them very young from hereditary liver disease. I lost a second one through a divorce. Third one died of old age, and I currently have a black female, and she's a strong black female, and her name's Pony.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well
Pony.
she's the best. She's about to be 10 though on January 10th, and little does she know, but we're already like prepared for her demise. Because when I was talking to this dude, he was like, "Man," I said I was on my 4th Doberman, and he's like, "I don't want to be weird, but like, how'd they die?" And I was
Yeah.
like,
Gotta ask.
"Yeah, man, I know they die young." And he's like, "Both of my dogs," and I had one of them die this way. He's like, "Both of my dogs." He's like, "My first one, I was playing in the backyard. He was like 10 years old, throwing the ball, and he just stopped, fell over, had a heart attack.
No
Healthy as like a horse, dead."
Dude, how sad would that be? Like just a Wednesday night.
That's
Yep.
what I'm going down.
And then, dude, I'm telling you, I tell everybody this about these Dobermans, man. You want to talk about ride till you die? That is literally what they do. Like, they show no signs of like illnesses or nothing, and then one day, all 3 of my Dobermans felt like they were 100% healthy. They didn't die like that, but like, and then you just come home one day, they're sick. You're like, "What the fuck?" You take them to the vet. They do a bunch of tests. They come out, they're like, "Your dog has a week to live." You're like, "How is that possible? He was just fine, like yesterday, like 100% fine." They're like, "Oh no, he's been very sick for a long time." You're like,
That is wild.
and of course, there's like, is there anything we could have done if we got him here sooner? They're like, "Oh no, they just show no signs of like, they just ride till they die."
It's you'll hear of like different dog breeds that are kind of like I mean a pug. You know what's keeping those things alive? You know,
Not
It's-
their sinuses.
Yeah, there's not much, and I feel like a Doberman's a little more practical than a pug, but you know,
Well, yeah, for a lot of reasons, but
Yeah.
sure.
but that's kind of if I did get a dog, it'd be like, what is the most like utilitarian dog I can get? Just the most useful thing that whether it's like protection or like hunting or you know just like a good
I'm pretty crazy about
Yeah.
dogs. My like favorite thing to do on Thanksgiving is the National Dog Show,
yeah. It's a good
and
one.
it's like I love it. And
Do you also watch a puppy bowl?
no, no, puppies are cool, but I like dogs.
Puppy Bowl doesn't have much. It's just kind of like
Yeah, and there's
you're just
mutts
wa-
and
yeah.
stuff, you know.
It's not like you're a competition. At
Right.
least you get to see something win. with the other one.
Exactly. And I've like gone down the rabbit hole a few times when like my dogs have died, like maybe I'll get a different dog. And every time I come back to the Doberman Pinscher. And the main reason, truthfully, is because of the fur.
Is it lack of?
Well, yeah, like there's a lot of other dogs I think are pretty badass that like check a lot of my boxes,
Yeah.
but they have freaking long fur and they like shed like crazy. And it's just like, well, I can't do that. And, you know, the Doberman, they got like a sleek coat. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's not like they're hypoallergenic, but it's not like the one dog I almost got was the Greater Bernese Mountain Dog.
I've looked that up for some reason. I know I've Googled
Dude,
that.
I've met them. I've met a few of them and like hung with like they're the super chillest dog. They're huge. They're kind of worthless in terms of like home protection, but that's not really what I was going for when I got a Doberman. It was more for like the look.
I'm trying to think. Doberman, it's black coat with like a brown face, super skinny nose. Is that right?
Yeah,
Sharp
pointed
ears.
ears.
Pointed ears, and then sometimes they'll clip the tail, so it's real
Yes.
short.
Yeah.
I think my buddy has one. I feel like.
Yeah, the females weigh about 75 to 80 pounds. The boys are like 95 to 100.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I know exactly. It's sad though. That's a good dog. I like.
You
my
know how
buddy's dog.
the Doberman was not considered a purebred dog until the 70s because Louis Doberman, which is how the Doberman is, it's a Doberman Pinscher, and Pinscher is a German word for terrier.
Mm.
And Louis Doberman was this guy who worked for the pre-Nazi German government back when, like, you know, we're talking like late 1800s, where you kind of needed a dog because he was a tax collector. So there's like accounts of him walking with like 2 to 3 dogs at a time because he
Really?
probably had a lot of the like.
Just to be a little intimidating.
No, because you're carrying a lot of money.
Oh.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, you're collecting
both.
taxes. And so Louis Doberman, just like any crazy German, wanted to engineer the perfect dog. So he decided that he was going to take 6 breeds. There's accounts of Louis Doberman's house where they had over 150 dogs that he was crossbreeding to create the Doberman Pinscher. And it consists of a Rottweiler, a Great Dane for size, Greyhound, that's why they're so thin and lean, a Weimaraner, a German short-haired pointer, and then the last one, which is the weird one, which this was probably hard to breed in, a Manchester Terrier, which a Manchester Terrier are these like little, they almost kind of look like, they look like little Dobermans, but they've got this super sleek coat because they're water dogs. And he wanted to try to breed that like slick, shiny coat.
Interesting.
Yeah, right?
Probably a loud house.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it was a farm.
Yeah, I
I
don't know
guess
what
so.
his HOA thought of that.
We're talking like 120
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know, have you guys ever listened to the Stuff You Should Know podcast?
I
No.
have a couple times.
I love that podcast.
Is
It's
it
like,
full of stupid facts like I just
yeah,
spit out?
and so it's like an entire episode on like stuff like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
What is it called?
Stuff you should know.
Stuff you should
Yeah,
know.
a friend of mine was
podcast.
telling me about an episode that I went back and
Yeah.
and listened to. It was about the reCAPTCHA when you enter a password,
Oh yeah,
and
that'd be an
then
interesting one.
they want you to like,
Click
you know,
the
they'll
stuff.
always
Oh,
show
I
you
know
a
what you're talking- okay.
screenshot from Google Maps or Google Earth, and it'll be like, show us all the bicycles. And I'm always like, why are we doing this? And then you get them all right, and it's like, do it again. And so it's actually just asking the general public to help them label everything on Google Earth rather than them doing it themselves.
Oh, wow.
And they
That's
just
crazy.
disguise it as security.
I love
That's
that.
fucking genius.
But that's why they always make you do it twice. They're like, we can make them do another.
But yeah,
smart.
I've listened to a lot of interesting stuff on there that just as fun facts if something ever comes up.
I'm full of fucking dumb
New York
facts.
water. New York water, very clean. Lightly
Well,
filtered.
I don't know.
Interesting.
I tell you, I got food poisoning this week, and I was in New York this past weekend for the Final Kiss concert.
Is it the Final Kiss concert?
Was that
that's-
yours? You
well,
got
yeah.
that?
I got that from
Like
the
there's
Kiss
no
cruise.
like that's it? Party's over?
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. They're turning into AI now.
Interesting.
So now they're gonna.
I'm surprised no one from Kiss is dead yet.
I am too.
I mean, really. We're talking rock stars here.
Yeah.
They usually don't take good care of themselves.
But also rock stars seem to live longer. I mean, look at like Keith Richards, who's probably
Yeah,
done.
but have you heard about him? He has a trailer that he brings along on tour with him that has a full gym in it. And apparently Keith Richards is like an
That's
avid
sweet.
like no, that's Mick Jagger. That's Mick
I could
Jagger.
also believe that.
Makes more
That's
sense.
Mick Jagger. Sorry, not Keith Richards. Fact check. But still, like
Yeah.
dude's working
Still
out. He's
badass.
doing he's doing the
It's
things.
got to be so hard to like live on the road like that. I mean, you see all the van people that do it, but like when you're working and doing that, like as a band, I just
Our
can't.
last episode was full about van people.
Really.
Oh yeah.
We're not going to get back into that one.
We talked a lot about well, they voted on it and everybody's still pissed off. No one's happy.
About the property line.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a question for Jordan. I love this.
Bringing it back to real estate.
Yeah, so finally.
Yeah.
I always need more airtime on this because Opus will chop it out, and all I've said was like a quick jab about Matt being bald or something. And I'm like, this is all they picked out about. And so it was like, we'll do this whole hour and a half podcast, and I got like 3 clips of me saying something.
Got to talk more,
Anyway.
man.
Yeah, I know. I just got to interject. Yeah, so okay, back to Jordan on this one. So on our last episode, we were talking with my lawyer about the new proposition
Yep.
to be able to add an extra additional unit if you have a lot of a certain size. Is that going to start? I mean, do you know what I'm talking about? And second, will that start coming into y'all's evaluations of how people can use the properties?
Not until it's like in effect. A lot of like realtors will try to sell us on that. You know, if they have a lot, or
I've seen
something,
that.
they'll be like, "Hey, you know, there's this new proposition," and I don't even know if it's really passed. I don't know what the stages
It has
are.
not passed.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff for that to even get to that point. I'm sure it'll be fine because you know, Austin is lacking on housing, so I'm sure the density will be approved at some point. But whether that's this coming year or the following year, you know, builders like they need to be able to start their process immediately. A lot of the time, you know.
I'm wondering if it's going to pass because I watched this today. So like I'm a weirdo where I still watch like local news on like antenna television.
Oh, wow.
Like I have an antenna. Like, have you ever hooked up these digital antennas?
I might need to do that.
The
They're
rabbit ears.
fucking badass. No, not rabbit ears.
Can
like,
you watch football on there?
yes.
Yeah, like local football.
And it's in HD. Like
Because that's the
this is a
issue.
hack.
And this
Yeah.
is
This
free.
is a hack, and it's totally free. The antenna you can go on Amazon right now and get it's $23, and you get
Put
like
it on my apartment.
Drop the link.
and you get like
You
75
should do
channels.
affiliate links on this to start
Right?
blasting out products.
I mean, don't get me
Finally
wrong.
we'll get
There's
paid.
like 75 channels. I watch like 6 of them. But there are sometimes I catch myself watching like Howdy Doody or like Beverly Hillbillies was on last night. And it's like low definition.
yeah.
And I feel like I'm 8 years old again. Anyways, so I was watching on the you know, and I'm wondering if it's going to pass because the people that I feel like would vote for it are pissed off about it
Really.
because they're like, how is this going to make things more affordable? We feel as though this is just going to make people that already own property richer. Because they're like, the only way that housing will become more affordable is through government subsidies or, I mean, in my opinion, as the loan officer, just lower those interest rates. Let's go, Fed. Like, we'll, you know, let's make it more affordable.
And then I'll be up here cranking up my list price.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And that is true. And I think, I don't know. I mean, I kind of know what the answer is. At the end of the day, like, I remember when
Pay
I was
people more.
No, you know, as far as like affordability is concerned, like not everybody can live. You know, I've always said this, like if everybody's a rock star, then no one's a rock star, right? And I mean that about like if everybody could afford to live in Austin, like then everyone would live in Austin, right? It's like things cost what they cost because of supply and demand. And I understand that if you maybe allow people to build additional properties, and let's face it, like these are, it's not like they're going to give you a yard and stuff.
They'll
Like,
be tiny. Yeah.
right. So it's like, who's gonna who's gonna like go for that on the buy side and on the sell side?
So I think right now, I mean, prime Austin, we're talking like East Austin, like 04, 02, these kinds of zips. Like people are already doing the ABs, of course, a little less so in Zilker, but more so on East Austin. Everybody's doing ABs. You're probably doing like 1,600 for an A, 1,100 for your B. This would probably allow for a C, which would probably be 500, 600 square feet. That's a guess. But it means that your A that you're selling for 800, your B that you're selling for 500, and now you have a C that maybe you're selling for 3 or 400. So I do agree that at least you'll have like maybe some closer to downtown affordable housing. Of course, you're not going to have a yard or anything like that, but
Right.
it's a solid alternative to someone who's wants their own spot but doesn't want to do rent, you know?
But here's where I play devil's advocate for that, and I want both of your opinions on this. How many neighborhoods have you gone through where you see these AB units that are 15 to 20 years old, and it is the shitty part of town?
Yeah.
And I think the reason for it is because let's just say I buy the A unit, Chase buys the B unit. We don't know each other, right? We become neighbors and we're friends, but we're just neighbors, right? We're nowhere near as close as we are now. And we live together. I just feel like there's a constant struggle in regards to like maintenance on that property
Mm-hmm.
because I don't technically, like, although I own the one half, someone owns the other half. So like, do I paint my half of the house? And I'm like, hey Chase, do you want to like paint the house with me? And he's like, I can't afford it this week. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh fuck it, I'm not gonna paint it either. And I feel like those homes do really, really well when they're brand new.
Mm-hmm.
Because people are like, oh, it's a brand new house. You buy your half, I buy my half. But then now Chase and I, we're buddies. We're living next door to each other. We just met, but like we just hit it off. And I'm like, well, Chase, I'm moving on. And he gets some shitty neighbors and he's like, I got to move out. The point I'm trying to make is I feel like these ADUs and these AB units, they are short-term solutions for long-term problems in regards to creating like community,
Mm-hmm. I
right?
could see that.
Because these homes aren't individually owned. There's no real like hardcore sense of ownership, right? It's just like condominium complexes. And the reason I feel this way is because, and you guys know this, like we as lenders, we treat condos differently.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know about the decks and bylaws. We need to know about their insurance coverage. You know why? Because public service announcement, the reason why we fuck with condos so much is because the one thing that's a big deal that makes a non-warrantable condo is if one entity owns more than 50% of the entire units. The reason is because if that entity allows for the units to kind of go to, here goes the neighborhood, go down the toilet. If 50% of the units go to shit, what does that do to your unit as a comparable sale?
Yeah.
It's gonna go to
Totally
shit.
fucks with it. And if it puts you in a position where you're underwater and you have to move or you can't pay, what are you going to do? You're going to foreclose. And me as the lender, first person you're going to say fuck you is to the lender. You're not going to pay me, right? And so going to these like AB units, ABC units and everything like that, is it going to create affordable housing? Yeah. But like, what's the long-term goal on that?
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like there's a lack of community there.
I agree. I mean, even when you're looking at like duplexes, I feel like I have this conversation with most new buyer clients. They'll say, well, if I can find a duplex in that budget as well, I'd be open to that. And I'm like, there's no duplexes in nice neighborhoods, though.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple in East Austin that are newer, built in the last 5 years. And give it a couple years, I don't think they're going to be pretty anymore. The neighborhood still might be extremely valuable, and hopefully it still is.
Well, that's what I meant when they build them
building
new.
isn't going to be.
When they build them new, people are like, "Oh, I fucking love it." Yeah, okay. What happens when it comes time to maintenance it?
Mm-hmm.
Don't most of them have a condo association for that duplex?
If
It's not
they're
a condo
condoed.
association. It's more like a
Some
yeah,
type
it's like
of
an HOA. It's more like an HOA. But
But then you're relying on two people to pay the dues.
yeah,
So a special assessment is still just two people paying.
it's not even dues. It's like so a lot of them have like shared driveway agreements,
Mhm.
right? So you got a shared driveway agreement that like everybody has to sign every single time that there's a sale and everything like that. I just like I said, I personally feel like it's a short-term solution for a long-term problem. And if you really, so going back to like, I know I say it all the time, but like going back to Cleveland, I bought in this neighborhood called Lakewood, which was basically like, it's like the first city outside of Cleveland, right? It's kind of like saying, oh, I don't live in Austin, I live in
Manor.
Westlake,
Buda.
Yeah.
right? Like it is Cleveland, but it's like a borough or whatever. I don't know. How to
I'm
describe
so trashy. He's thinking Westlake. I'm thinking Buda.
yeah.
Manor.
Yeah, not Manor.
Cedar Creek.
Right. But the point I'm trying to make was that city was giving incentives to people. So I think about this a lot because in the grand scheme of things, like Austin is nowhere near as old as Cleveland, right? Like my first house that I bought that house. It was built in 1895.
It's probably when Austin started,
Right.
right?
But like, you know,
Like I don't know.
and this was like
1880s,
this was like considered to be like a neighborhood where, you know, these
Yeah.
big Victoria. So when I moved into that city, they were giving incentives to people that were taking duplexes and converting them to single families. So if you were taking a duplex and converting it to a single family, they gave you like some crazy credit.
That's great. That's almost the opposite of what we'd want here.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's the point, and this goes back to like not saying like Austin doesn't have it together. I'm just thinking about like cities that
They
have
might
been
not.
right. I'm just saying cities that have been operating a lot longer than, you know, down here. The reason why they did that was because what they identified was the duplexes were typically run by investors, a lot of times out of state, a lot of times slumlords, attracting people that might not be best for the neighborhood type of situation. And they were always the shittiest houses on the block.
Mhm.
And they wanted to do away with multi-unit properties because it wasn't good for the community.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. Like, sure, does it make housing more affordable? Sure. But like, I hate to say this, I'm probably going to get a lot of fucking hate for this, but like, if you can't afford to live in Austin, I have two questions for you. Number one, why? Right? Like, why? And I know the gentrification part has to really fucking hurt. Like, I grew up here, I lived here, so on and so forth. Part of me wants to say, like, then why didn't you capitalize on all the opportunity? Like, it's been going on for well over a decade. Like, well, how can you not financially afford to live here? And if you just got here and you can't financially afford to live here, like, maybe you don't need to be here. There's
Right.
lots of places to live, right? Like, I think about New York City. Like, what if people were just in New York City, like, I can't afford to live in right outside of Central Park? Well, that's not how this works,
Yeah.
right? That's how any of this works. Like, I can't afford to live in a lot of places,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
I would love to live in, I don't know, what's a really swanky part of Austin?
Westlake.
I would love.
Yeah.
I don't really. But let's. You know what I'm saying.
PK or
I would
something.
love to live on Lake Travis.
Yeah.
I would love to live on Lake Austin. But you don't see me being like, it's not fair. It's not affordable.
Yeah.
It's not affordable because they don't want fucking assholes like me there, right? Like that's just the way the world works. And so I don't think it's a great idea to. I mean, the acreage size that they're talking about is like I think it's like 0.3 acres. Will allow you to build 2 units, and then an ADU.
0.3 is pretty good, actually.
That's a pretty large
Because
lot.
what we typically see is 6,000 square feet, 0.16 of an acre that you can build 2 on. So if you double that to add a third ADU, that's not too bad. I'm surprised it's not smaller, actually. So that's not the worst.
It's like this property we just bought is on 0.3 acres, and
Hey.
Ina was like, I was like, no, I don't know. I have no idea how in the world we would put another house on this property. It just seems insane to me.
Yeah.
Which is good to know for the future. I don't know. Resale.
I mean, the only way I could see it is if we bulldoze the house that we have and then put 2 houses on it.
Yeah, 'cause your
Yeah.
bull doesn't move it up.
Right.
It's really, I mean, as long as you have you got to have space for the drive on either side, right?
Right. And there's teardowns. I get it. I don't know. I've been triggered.
Yeah.
Chase, tell us about your transaction.
Yeah, actually, I had something else I wanted to get into with Jordan. So, yeah, I just did this flip. It
He just
finally
rips-
closes.
Just rips me.
Thank God.
I actually really needed to get into
But
this.
I
Thanks,
actually
Jordan.
wanted
I've been
this
meaning
to
to tell you for months.
wanted to transfer this to Jordan because we were talking about where do all the starving
Beautiful flip, by the way.
where do all the starving artists go? They move to Lockhart. That's where the
Dude, I
the
love
artists are
Lockhart.
going right now.
Mhm.
Is that why? Why?
Because it's cheap
I've heard
and
it's
it's still kind of
An
cool.
artsier field than Bastrop. I've
I
heard
fucking love
I've heard
Lockhart.
Bastrop is kind of like the Reds place that people are going kind of there.
Yeah, you can see the Trump flags
And,
there.
yeah, and the Lockhart is a little more of the artsy side, a lot of like
Interesting.
hipster vibe there. And if you look into some of the like bars and restaurants there, I think they have a speakeasy even in
Shout
Lockhart.
out to the Pearl. There's a bar called the Pearl. I know the owner. Great bar. It's actually right down the street from OG Blacks.
Yeah.
And I love Lockhart. I'm out there like once a month. There's
They
a
have
meat market in Luling.
First Sundays, is that a thing? First Saturdays, Sundays.
Yeah, they do a car show and everything. Yeah.
Nobody.
I've been there once.
I love
There's
Lockhart.
something they do on like the first Sunday of the month or something. It's supposed to be kind of like a farmer's market, but
Yep.
I've heard they have great bars, a couple good restaurants. I know there are a couple like notable Airbnbs and Airbnb investors that are
Interesting.
like kind of own the scene over there. It's definitely a good spot. I would love to like buy and hold over there for sure.
I
Well,
dig it.
So going back to you buying over there, so about, I don't know, a couple months, maybe a year ago, maybe even more than that, Jordan and some of his buddies from his office went in on a flip property together. How'd that end up panning out?
So that one was 905 Center Street. We bought it in July of 2022, which was
This was in Lockhart?
Lockhart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that was well over a year ago, damn.
This was, I thought the deal, it penciled great. It was a very heavy project, but because of kind of the experience, not really experience for myself, but like being able to see what other people had done and, just learning from that, I was comfortable with a heavy project. The issue was probably, July 2022 was like right when interest rates had already dropped or
Yeah.
risen a little bit, but July 22 is kind of when
Things
prices started to
slower.
get affected by the rise.
Yep.
And so it was almost the worst time I could have bought. And so, and it wasn't just me; it was me.
That's
and
still
two
to be told.
Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah. But it was me and two other folks, and we basically were like equal partners in that one. We bought it for $230 across the street from a high school, which at the time, I was like, oh, not a big deal. It's a good, it's a good price point. In Austin, Travis County, I'd be more concerned being across from a school than I would be in Lockhart. And so I was less concerned with that. It needed significant foundation. We ended up putting 110 into it. So very hefty project, needed, 30 plus piers for foundation, redid the plumbing, redid, wiring, redid everything basically for that amount. And so we listed it
How old was the home? Like the original build?
80s,
Okay.
early 80s probably. And so bought it into July, finished end of October, something like that, mid-November. Listed it on the week of Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
And so that was just, obviously the worst, but you have to get it on the market because it was done. And so it sat there without an offer, like basically without showings until March of this year. So for about, November, end of November, December, January, February, end of March, we got 2 offers the same week. And so we were like, okay, this is our chance. So like we got to take one of these. One of them was a little less serious. The other one was like, hey, we love the house. And so we went with that one. Ended up losing a slight bit of money, not too much actually. And so it was almost basically break even, which for
More or less than 5 figures.
we thought the ARV was going to be $475. We thought worst case $430. Ended up selling for $387, and I think we lost like maybe 10 grand,
That's not
something
bad.
like that, between 3, And so we were like, okay, that's not the worst, but
Yeah.
certainly not what you want for a first flip.
No.
Um,
First flips I hear are always a fucking nightmare, though.
Well, we definitely got in over our heads doing such a big project.
Gotta
Really
get your
not
cherry
even.
pop, though.
Yeah, really not even that. If the market had remained the same, we would have made out just fine. It was just poor oversight on our part of the market, and that
What? Hang on. Was it the market or were there other mistakes?
I'm sure the being across from school was certainly a mistake there.
Okay.
As far as like price for contractor, some folks say we probably could have done that for less, and I agree, except that it's in Lockhart, and I'm not going to be driving down there to GC it myself.
Yeah.
So I'm comfy paying a little bit more. For
I
that.
ask because I always want to make sure that on this, like, I mean, if it is true, then say it. But like, I can't get over the amount of people that focus on the market
Right.
So if someone's going to come on my podcast and be like, we timed the market wrong, I want to be like, wait a second. You're
I
going to
focused
fuck
on the market.
with everybody
Yeah.
because everybody is convinced that there's like a time to buy and a time to not buy.
I mean, if that wasn't across from the school, I bet we definitely would have broken even or made some. So I'm
Okay.
sure that was totally a factor because at the time people were touring, it was sure people were out for winter break, but January, February, March, whenever people were touring, you'd hear the bell going off at the school across the street, And at the time, whenever we bought, I was like, oh, not a big deal. We're in Lockhart. It's not like it's Travis County.
So what'd you learn, though? Like, how hard is it to flip a house? Because I can't tell you how many
Yeah.
people contact me and they're like, Matt, I need financing. We want to flip this house. Like, it's so easy. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to bing, bang, boom.
Right. And I think what I learned was similar
Final word.
similar to what Chase learned, as far as criteria moving forward, we're probably looking at 90s or newer as far as build goes. That way you're not dealing with cast iron or aluminum wiring. Probably looking at
Oh, you guys do aluminum down here.
Yeah, I think it switched mid.
Do they make you switch it out, too? It's a
You
fire
can,
hazard.
To get the electrical permit, you do.
You
Yeah,
can
it's a fire
pigtail
hazard.
it at the outlets, is what I've heard. To bring it up to code, as long as you pigtail at the outlets, so you can still do copper at the outlets and have
Who
the
was
rest
the
of the house
jackass
aluminum.
that thought that was a good idea?
Yeah,
They ran that aluminum through all those houses, man.
I mean,
yeah.
It's a
And
big fire hazard.
Well, the cast iron, because I know that was an
Yeah.
issue on yours,
that's not code, though, is it?
but it ended up breaking. That was the big
yeah,
issue.
cast it. But
Yeah.
you
It's
can
not
run
code.
you
Yeah,
can
you
run
can
fern
keep it.
coes. You can run fern coes through cast.
Fernco's?
Yeah,
don't
so
know
a
what a
fern
fernco is
fern
either.
co is like a rubber thing that you can
Which I
connect
probably
with
should know that.
PVC.
Huh.
See, I'm handy.
Which, yeah, that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
you can look under some cabinets and see PVC, but that
Yeah,
under
you
the
can
house
connect-
it's still cast.
Right, you can and
Right.
cast is fine. I mean, it's up to code.
Which was
and-
probably the case for yours. I'm sure there are several spots that were PVC, but the majority of it
so
was cast.
tell you what happened at the end that really fucked us up. So
aluminum's a pain in the pecker, though.
This is what happened. So we were about a week from putting it on the market.
pecker.
About a week from being finished with
You don't
construction.
want a pain in the
and then
pecker.
we'd stage it and put it on the market. And my contractor had just burrowed a hole to move our plumbing for the sink from the wall to the island. And I had walked in the house just to inspect a drawer that had been put on. And I was like, why is that drawer lopsided? And while I'm looking at it, I'm like, why are my feet gushing in water right now?
Oh man.
And I looked down at it had rained earlier that day, and I was like, all right, maybe I tracked this in. And I feel the boards, and between our beautiful engineered hardwood, I'm just watching this water come up, and I was like, oh fuck. So I called my contractor. I was like, what happened in the corner of the kitchen where there's water coming through the boards? And my contractor's like, honestly, man, your plumbing's fucked. And I was like, what happened? He's like, I don't know. Call Roto-Rooter. And I was like, all right. So Roto-Rooter came out next day, and they put the camera snake down. This is one thing I've learned. Get the camera snake inspection. So they put the camera snake down, and they're like, okay, we see what happens. So there's right on the edge of your garage, which is an easy place to fix, there was a cracked pipe. And when it cracked, over the years, it had just started bending in.
Mhm.
And we got to the point where it had been storing about 30 years of debris in it,
Yeah.
and some liquid could get through. But if you flushed any type of debris, any type of, chunky poop, or,
I mean,
poop, things that you
Everybody
flush,
poops.
A little wet
Um,
light.
then it gets stuck there. So, we got 30 years of tampons in this. And then now when the water can't get through, it wants to come back. So it wanted to come back through the guest room, the guest toilet in the hallway. But then it found this other way out. And I think when the hole was being jackhammered in my foundation, and I can't prove this, I'm just speculating here. I think that kind of cracked the pipe that was only maybe 3 feet away from it. And so once that cracked, then the water said, okay, this is our new way out. So then water started coming out there. So Roto-Rooter we had to get our construction crew to remove all the flooring that we've already put down. Roto-Rooter had to jackhammer through the floors, replace the section of pipe. Then they had to burrow under the garage to replace the other section. Roto-Rooter was in and out in one day for $13,000.
Well,
Um,
good price
poured
for
new
it,
concrete
but that
and
is
everything.
impressive as far as time frames go.
So the moral of the story for the audience out there is flipping a home is not as easy as just like bing, bang, boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So
I have this conversation all the time as a lender. You know, people they're like, I want to borrow money, I want to do this, I'm gonna flip a house, like, and I've been doing this long enough that like, yes, I do this for money, but I also like, shocker, I really kind of care.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, so what are you doing? Like, how many homes have you done? Like, what does this look like? And I just talk to a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, you know, you just buy a home and you flip it. Duh. And I'm like, I don't know, man. This is a lot more difficult than you think. And
well, so
I love hearing these stories because I want to bring reality
Yeah.
to.
I think
Absolutely.
my big takeaways were, and I would say this is one problem when working with the wholesalers. You don't really get an inspection. You kind of like it's what you see, what you get. Which there's absolutely buyers for that who are not afraid of anything, and at the right price, you can be not afraid of anything. 'Cause, whatever if you get the right price, you can fix anything.
If you have the cash, yeah.
But if you have the opportunity for an inspection, take that inspection seriously. And I would also pay the $500 for a company like Roto-Rooter to come put their camera through all the plumbing. I would even consider hiring an electrician to have them do their scope of all the electricity things in their electric panel and all that. Then it wouldn't even be a bad idea to have a roof guy go out there and take a look at it as well, because they'll go give their inspection for free.
Yeah.
And then if you have any questions regarding the foundation, there's a company I use called the Foundation Guru that they, for like $200-300, will basically tell you if you need foundation work, but they don't do it, so they're very unbiased. Most of the time, they'll tell me I don't need anything at all. So when I bought that house, Jordan's company said, yeah, you need a couple piers in this one room. The Foundation Guru said, no, you don't. We ended up getting them anyway, just because the room was visibly sloping. But yeah,
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
So, again, where I come from, we have basements, right? And so this whole foundation thing was new to me. I've been here. It's going to be over 4 years. I've been over here for 4 years. So I do kind of know the answer to this question, but you guys have experienced this way more than I have, so I think you'll have a good answer. When you do these piers, is it, when it's done, is your foundation as good as it would have been when it started, or is it better?
From what I understand, and I'll let Jordan give his opinion as well.
I honestly don't know.
The slab is the same. It's we're fixing the ground, because the ground is what changes.
I would think it
The
would be
thick
better.
concrete slab, it's just
I mean,
moving
I don't
with
know.
the ground. So once you put the pier in, it's like when you started, because you're just fixing what's changed in the ground.
I'd say there's never a perfect zero,
Right.
Like a
I
foundation.
mean, even a brand new home is not.
Even a
I
brand
know
new
that.
home is never within zero. And so all you have is within tolerance, which is, within an eighth of an inch of zero. And even when you get it fixed, it'll be good, but it probably won't be as good as it was brand new. And something we learned in the Lockhart house, as soon as
So you think brand new is
probably superior, yeah, to
Okay.
getting it fixed, absolutely. Because
so? Wait, let me just ask. Hypothetically, 2 homes,
Mhm.
both built in 1990, right? Both homes built in 1990. One home has had no foundation repair and is, basically deemed solid. The other home has had foundation repair in the last 5 years and is now solid. Which home's better?
I'd prefer the one that didn't need foundation repair to begin with,
'Kay.
because it tends to be a recurring theme unless you get like steel piers or something. People for foundation repair, you can either do concrete piers or steel piers.
Ooh, tell me about
And
steel piers.
Steel piers are a hefty price tag, but if it's your primary,
Yeah.
that's something that you want to spend money on.
What does that look like? How do they? So I've seen concrete piers done. So
Yeah.
we'll
It's-
just
I think, I'm not too sure, but I think it's the same process, just literally steel piers instead of concrete. And because of that, they just kind of hold up a bit longer. There may be a different process for install. I'm not actually sure, because
we're talking like the same. Like it's got to be like steel beam piers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
That actually, why the fuck isn't everybody doing that?
'Cause
It
it
can't be that much
costs
more. Why? Why is it so
a
much
lot
more
more.
expensive?
So imagine, I mean, you get a retail bid on a foundation, and it's probably, if it's significant, it's probably a 20K job. You
Yeah.
do steel, and you're looking at like a 35K job. So
Why? I mean, what about it? I've never even heard
I'm
of
not
steel piers,
sure
but
if
I did
it's
concrete for a short period of time
Yeah.
when I was, as like side gigs when I was younger. So I've got a grasp of how concrete works,
Mhm.
and concrete piers make complete sense to me. I know exactly how that works. And then I think about putting steel, because they're just going to wrap that in concrete anyway.
I don't know.
Why are they not just doing
I
that?
literally have never seen it done.
I've seen it done.
Well, this for the
Not
steel.
steel.
For the steel.
Okay,
I've
sorry.
never seen the steel done. And so I don't actually know what the difference is, if there's a different install, if there's a different pier. I can only kind of speculate on
I
that.
got an
You'd
idea.
have to YouTube it.
You know what I bet
And
it is?
yeah.
They got to bring this fucking machine in that pounds the steel, because like the concrete you can just pour.
I thought that's how they did the concrete. I thought it was a hydraulic press that pushed them. I always
No,
thought that's what it was.
they dig them out. They dig the hole, and then they put in the new piers, like with concrete. Like a pier could just be poured with the, a little cone or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and they're just pouring new piers.
I always thought they used presses on those.
I mean,
I think maybe every company's different too.
yeah,
I've
I
looked
saw.
at- looked into that.
I saw. Well, I didn't watch the whole project unfold, but
Yeah.
I saw photos of a buddy of mine who had to have foundation repair
Mhm.
done in his house. And the crazy part is like you got to redo all the floors and stuff. I mean, they were digging
It's a
holes
whole
in like the
thing.
middle of his kitchen and everything, and like a lot of the walls cracked. Not
Yeah.
just the drywall
Well,
and
like,
everything.
a house could be perfect, but if you need foundation, you also need floors and paint.
Right.
So
exactly.
it's an additional 10K for just floors and paint.
But they're not pounding these concrete piers
I have
in.
no
The,
idea.
the concrete would break if you were to hit it.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. What do you mean by hydraulic press?
That's always what I've come to think, at least as far as like YouTube videos I've seen.
If you hit a piece of concrete with a press, it would break.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So
Well,
you're digging that hole and you're pouring
You're just
concrete
setting 'em.
into, you're setting it and then you're re-pouring it over
Yeah.
and relaying that slab on the
Because I
top.
thought, how does the actual pier push up the slab?
It holds it up, doesn't push it up. So you dig that hole, you drill in, you dig that hole, you put in that pier, and then you re-pour over it, and now you've got this concrete base that's no longer sinking,
Yeah.
right? Where I could see now what you're thinking as far as like now that concrete base could potentially like
Right.
it could break down.
Exactly.
It's not a piece of steel.
Yeah.
So now if I dig that hole and instead of pouring that concrete pillar with like you've seen those little quickcrete tubes,
Mhm.
instead of doing something like that, I literally hydraulic press a piece of steel
Yeah.
in.
So that's kind
That's
of the difference.
badass.
If you're doing homestead, like that's the way to go. Which
I never
spend the
even heard
extra
of
money
that.
on that.
But it makes so much sense.
Yeah. So if you're doing a flip house, go concrete. You're getting
Sure.
in and out. But what I was getting at was learning on the Lockhart house. It was off probably 4.5 inches, which is a good bit, and
It is.
probably needed 30 something piers. After we did foundation work first week we started. It took another couple months before we finished the full rehab. By the time we were finished with the full rehab, foundation had already kind of settled again. So,
wow.
as far as, and that's why I was leaning more toward the house that had not needed foundation to begin with. Because the house that did need foundation work, it's going to need work again in the future.
Mhm.
Even if you have a warranty on it, that's great, but no one's going to honor that warranty quickly.
So what were the nightmares with yours?
Oof.
He goes, oof.
Wow. That was a lot. Let's see. Well, I mean, yeah, that was really the only nightmare thing. I think the other thing was we just weren't expecting to have to pay for, all the wiring to get changed on it.
What year was it? Do you remember?
1975.
Yeah.
We didn't expect to have to buy a new roof. Then after I looked at the pictures, I was like, yeah, that's kind of obvious. And then
Where was this at?
this is in Whispering Oaks. This is
4-5.
Okay, that's
745,
right.
yeah.
Oh, that's just
Yeah,
north
you
of
went
me.
to it.
Yeah. Oh, that one.
Yeah.
I like that place.
Yeah. This
It was
is good.
very
It
well
just
done.
sold?
Very tasty.
Yeah. This is the same one.
He's like, I went to that open house.
Yeah, you.
7
y'all
years
met,
ago.
y'all met at that
you
party.
you have other houses
This
too.
is
Like
several years
that's
ago.
not your only place, right?
I got 2 others, but that
Right.
was the only flip house. Yeah.
Wow, that one. Okay.
Um,
Okay. You know what's crazy was one of the real estate agents I work with, James Johnson, was like, I saw him pulling all the furniture out of it. I was like, maybe he sold it.
I did.
There it is, James. He sold it.
Also, I like that he was just going by. Didn't want to help.
I'm surprised they didn't take the furniture. That was
I had food poisoning. I had to diarrhea every like 10 minutes.
You
taking
seller
over.
financed it?
Yeah. So basically, we seller finance it with a 3-year balloon. So for the viewers that don't
I
understand,
was going to say, explain that.
means by the end of 3 years or before them, whenever she wants to, she needs to either refinance with a bank and get a regular bank loan. So I'm out of it.
She can call me.
I agree. She should. Or she could pay it off in cash if somehow she has this, just magical bank of cash that she didn't want to use earlier. Or she needs to sell the house, which in 3 years, I mean, I think the thing will be worth enough. For it to
It's a
actually
beautiful
make
house for
make good
those of you
profit.
that haven't seen it.
So, right, I mean, this lady,
7206 Towering Oaks.
yep, this lady lives in San Jose. She's a
believe I remember
CPA. I'm not sure what her plans are with it. I think she wants to use it as an investment property. It's not going to cash flow though. So, if she uses it as an Airbnb, it could. As a long-term rental, it won't. So, I don't know. We'll see.
She's big on the sub-2 train. She was like, this is a nice remodeled house. I can get seller financing on.
So I'm going to
Hey,
let
maybe.
you gentlemen continue to
gonna
wrap
try to
because
Airbnb your
I'm
thing.
going to use the bathroom.
I was thinking about that.
You guys want to pause?
We can
You want
Let's
to
just
take a
pause.
pee
Take a
break?
break.
We'll take a pee break.
Everybody podcast
All right,
breaks.
pee break.